Awards ceremony of the Greatiean Prize for the year 2025. This is the 33rd year of the award. It is indeed my distinct honor and an absolute privilege to be here. My name is Rehan, and I was wondering at the outset as to why I was invited for this purpose. I'm very well aware that President's Counsel, Mr. Mohammed Adamali, has held this position for a number of years. I wondered whether it was because of the fact that we both practice law, we both dabbled in the theatre. So I asked Nafisa why. These are very large shoes to fill. I don't think I can fill these shoes. She thought for a moment and responded saying, "Don't worry, Rehan, at least you have a hairline." While I do note that this is not at all a compliment towards my competing abilities, I will take the compliment and also acknowledge that that is my contribution as a work of fiction for next year's Greatiean Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute privilege to be your host for this evening. I'll try to keep things moving along as smoothly and as fast as possible. We are on a very tight time schedule, I'm told. Please enjoy the evening, and let me first commence by acknowledging our key invitees, dignitaries who are with us today. Let me start by acknowledging the presence of the British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, His Excellency Mr. Andrew Patrick. We also have with us the Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Sri Lanka, His Excellency Dr. Semi Lutful Turgut. We have with us the Australian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, His Excellency Matthew Duckworth. And representing the Canadian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka is the Chargé d'Affaires and Interim, Mr. Andrew Oliver Gillis. We also have with us the head of the Goethe Institute in Sri Lanka, Mr. Stefan Winkler. We have a star-studded guest lineup, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be a wonderful evening. The Trust has also asked me to acknowledge the immense contribution given by the partners of the Trust. I'd like to acknowledge the primary partner of the Trust and this event, the John Hills Foundation, the Cinnamon Life City of Dreams team, who is the venue partner for this event. I would also like to acknowledge the contribution of Sadasavi Bookshop Private Limited. It's been a long-standing partnership with the Greatiean Trust. The media partners for the event, Sunday Times and Edged Social, and last but not least, the Marg Institute, the Secretariat of the Trust. Now, without rambling on, ladies and gentlemen, let me just make one request to please turn off your mobile phones, or at least put it to silent mode as we commence the proceedings. And usually I would say it would be my task to present you with a few words about the Greatiean Trust, the Greatiean Award, and the absolute importance it has for Sri Lankan literature. It's a cultural heritage now for us as Sri Lankans, I suppose, but I would be failing in my task if I tried my best to do so. So let me invite the best person for this job. He is, of course, not a person who needs any introduction. Suffice to say, he is an acclaimed advocate of human rights and good governance in Sri Lanka. And I am told that his wise counsel has been of immense support to the Trust, especially in the areas of management, governance, and implementation of best practices. Ladies and gentlemen, he now is the chairperson of the Trust, has taken over from Nafisa Amiruddin and Nisreen Jafferji. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dr. Pakisoti Saranotto.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome on behalf of the Greatiean Trust to this 33rd prize giving of the Greatiean Award. I suppose it is in order that I thank all the people who have made this possible, in particular the judges. And I think this is the first time in many years in which we've had all three judges physically present at the awards ceremony. And I particularly must thank Dinidu and Sudi for being here, for traveling so many miles. I also want to thank Sudi in particular because she has undertaken many workshops and also a masterclass, and in the true spirit of the Greatiean Award, tried to, propagate, if you like, that English literature is alive and kicking, and that it must inspire and nurture a new generation. Excellencies, High Commissioners and Ambassador and the Chargé d'Affaires, we are very, very honored to have your presence here, and particularly that of the British High Commission, who has always supported us and provided solidarity and support for us right through the life of the Greatiean Trust. We also must thank our sponsors, the John Keels Foundation, and Carmeline, to you as well, Saraswati Bookshop, and the media sponsors, Vijay Newspapers and Sujan in particular. Now, when one considers that the Trust has done this over 33 years, that is, I think, at one level a testament to the abiding interest in English literature and creative writing in this country. And what is particularly important is that throughout those years, and indeed this year as well, the ideas, the themes that they have drawn upon have a particular relevance to what is happening in our society. From the turbulence of the Arab era to the importance of human rights in terms of LGBTQI issues, to other political questions of turmoil, and also the personal experiences set against the background of these socio-economic events, I think, attest to the fact that writing in English, creative writing in English, is not just a pastime of those who have, basically nothing else to do, but it is very much a need to express, the ideas, the thoughts that have come about as a consequence of what is happening in society around. In that sense, it's eminently contextual. The other point I would like to make is that, the language that has been used in the submissions have sort of broken the bounds of convention. It's not always the sort of pretty, neat, modest, and bourgeois way of doing things. It has been fairly radical. It has broken those bounds, and it has been honest and original in that respect. And I think that's also a great first for us, and indeed for literature in the country. We had over 100, or approximately 100 submissions. A lot of poetry, novels, plays, over 100. And in that respect, I must again thank the judges for what might well have been a very tiring, perhaps even tedious labor, but a labor of love, no doubt, with moments in which they too were inspired and they too were delighted as well. So that there were approximately 100 entries again, I think, is a testament to the importance, the enduring importance of creative writing in the English language and the enduring interest of people in submitting their thoughts, their ideas in writing to this award. So without much further ado, let me conclude by welcoming all of you. And I hope you have a very pleasant evening, and I'm sure we all look forward to the announcement of the prize winner and to his speech. But before that, we also have another, I think, departure from the past, and that is with Kapila Palyawardne's section of entertainment where we blend dance with poetry. And I think that's another point that the Greatiean Trust has been important in nurturing. That it's not just the question of literature and writing, but also the enduring connection between the arts. So, thank you very much.
For over 3 decades, the Greatiean Trust has championed literary excellence, nurtured new voices, and fostered meaningful conversations around literature and the arts. This year, the Trust expanded its impact through awards, workshops, lectures, podcasts, and outreach programs across Sri Lanka, creating opportunities for writers and readers to connect, learn, and grow. The 32nd Greatiean Prize. On 31st May 2025, the Trust celebrated the 32nd Greatiean Prize at Single Life. The Greatiean Prize was awarded to Kata Kata, Gossip, Rumors and Idle Talk by Sabi Edrisona, while Shyamalee Pereira received the HAI Gurukulak Prize for Translation for her work with Hearing. The evening brought together Sri Lanka's literary community in celebration of storytelling and achievement. Greatiean Prize in Sri Lanka. The following days featured Pulitzer Prize winning poet and Greatiean Jewel Chair, Professor Greatiean Prize. An exclusive writing workshop for past Greatiean finalists explored voice, craft, and creative experimentation, while a public talk at the University of Colombo inspired students, writers, and academics to reflect on creativity, identity, and artistic expression. The Greatiean Trust podcast. Literary conversations continued through the Trust's podcast series. Gregory Khan will join Professor Vinanda Pereira to discuss poetry, voice, and language, while Sunil Ajayamohan and Andrew Figueroa Fernando explored storytelling, memory, landscape, and history in partnership with the British Council in Sri Lanka. Nurturing young writers. At the Hamburg City Literary Festival in September, Professor Nelka Silva led creative writing workshops for children, encouraging imagination and confidence through storytelling. Rewriting the narrative. Vinanda Pereira, Sabi Edrisona, and Shyamalee Pereira came together for a panel discussion on contemporary writing, exploring the relationship between literature and technology. Creativity in writing, Jaffna Code. In March 2026, the Trust partnered with the University of Jaffna for a lecture and workshop series led by Professor Nelka Silva. The Greatiean Trust facilitated a unique collaboration with 4 students from the University of Colombo traveling on to join their counterparts in the University of Jaffna for these sessions. Participants explored creativity, experimentation, and the enduring value of human storytelling in an age shaped by artificial intelligence. Looking ahead. Throughout the year, the Greatiean Trust celebrated achievement, supported emerging talent, and strengthened Sri Lanka's literary community. we thank our supporters for being part of this journey.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Saranamuthu, for those words. Ladies and gentlemen, as I stated in my introduction, and as you have just witnessed as well, an endeavor such as the Greatiean Trust and the award itself is a mammoth task. It takes a lot of effort, and it requires a lot of support. And that's where the partners of the trust come in. The principal partner, of course, being the John Keels Foundation, and I have been told that the support given by the foundation is simply unparalleled. It is a relationship that has moved from strength to strength. It has now surpassed 5 years. So let's hear from them. Please join me as we can welcome Ms. Kamalin Jayasuriya, who is the head of CSR and the Senior Assistant Vice President at John Keels Holdings PLC, to speak a few words. Please, let's make her feel welcome.
Your Excellencies, distinguished invitees, Dr. Saranamuthu, Chairperson of the Greatiean Trust, and all the trustees of the Greatiean Trust, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to represent John Keels Foundation and in fact the John Keels Group at this much looked forward to annual event of the Greatiean Trust, the Greatiean Prize, the 33rd Greatiean Prize. If I am to just put in a nutshell what this means to John Keels as a whole, I think it might give it a little bit of context as to why we are partners of the Greatiean Trust, now 7 years and counting. One of the key intersects, I would say, in our objectives is to ensure that the creative arts of Sri Lanka are not just, as Dr. Saranamuthu rightly said, tolerated as something, that people have a lot of free time might indulge in. Certainly not. It is a great talent. It is something of great value. And as we lawyers would always underscore the importance of intellectual property, I think that's something to be really cherished, propagated, promoted, and showcased. And I believe a lot of the time, the creative arts do not get their rightful place. You find that certain people will be honored, awarded, recognized, felicitated. It will appear in the media and then disappear. It will, as books lie on bookshelves, as pieces of art in galleries. Some will be bought, some will just collect dust. But what is the real value of all of this? And that's where I would like to explain where John Keels comes in. John Keels Foundation is the CSR entity of the John Keels Group, which a lot of you will know as a conglomerate with diversified businesses numbering about 80. The John Keels Foundation was created with the specific purpose of partnering nation building. To us, CSR is not about just doing good, doing something nice somewhere, and then checking a box. That is not it. For us, it's all about nation building. Just as much as John Keels is so invested in the economy of the country, we feel it is our responsibility to equally invest in the social and environmental development of our nation. And that is why the vision of John Keels Foundation is empowering the nation for tomorrow. And this we do through 4 pillars: education, biodiversity, community and livelihoods, social health and cohesion. The first three are self-definitive. Social health and cohesion makes some people scratch their heads and wonder what is that? Why is John Keels in it? And I want to take a little, maybe a minute, to explain why it is important to John Keels to focus on social health and cohesion. We do not necessarily focus on the physical health only of a person, but also the holistic health. And in that context, we feel that society has a role to play in the health of an individual, as much as the individual has a role to play in the health of the society. So under social health and cohesion, we cluster several programs. One that deals with combating social ills, for instance, gender-based violence, child abuse, substance abuse prevention, etc. On the other, it's the creative economy, the creative industries. And why? Because, as I said at the beginning, the creative industries is largely untapped in the country in terms of potential. And I believe if the mic were to be given to Orlando here, he will speak for about an hour about what the creative economy needs to be. For us, it simply means that we have this abundance of talent in the country, which, as I said at the beginning, is generally accepted, appreciated, recognized, more so now than before. But in terms of the real value of it, the intellectual property, as I mentioned earlier, it's not necessarily reached its potential in terms of recognition in the country. Yes, we have the laws, we have the regulations, but in terms of general understanding and acceptance among the public, it can do far better. And that is where we feel that John Keels has a role to come in to enhance the recognition as well as the promotion of the creative arts, not just within the country but beyond. And so we are involved in the literary arts through Greatiean Trust, as well as the visual arts, the performing arts, the local crafts, all of which we feel we have a role to play in. So we have, as a result, developed a series of partnerships which we feel can add value to each of these organizations that we partner with. And in that context, I'm very happy to note that the Greatiean Trust, one of the oldest of these partners, is playing an exceptional role. I know a lot of the trustees, if not all of them, are doing an honorary role. And they bring in their years of experience, their expertise, their subject knowledge to add value to the Greatiean Trust. And as John Keels, we would really like, as we have done in the past, to play a bigger role, a more meaningful and strategic role to help these institutions, such as the Greatiean Trust, develop their capacity, their institutional capacity, as well as their networks beyond the literati, possibly, and look at ways and means of giving these institutions the trust they need to continue the good work that they have been doing. So it is a privilege and honor to partner the Greatiean Trust. And Dr. Saravanamuthu, as he takes over this year as the new chair of the Greatiean Trust, we assure you of our continued support in a meaningful manner. And I'm so happy also to note, if I may say Sugi, if I may call you Sugi, I was so happy to note that you have been on board for 6 fringe events, which is a wonderful thing. And I think exchange of knowledge, ideas, creative and energies, all of that can infuse a lot of lifeblood into not just the literary arts but to arts in general. So well done, Sugi, and I'm sure the rest of the judges will also be contributing. So let me end by saying congratulations to all the long listers and the short listers. It's been incredible to witness the amount of creative talent that has emerged, and it continues to emerge. So keep writing, keep indulging in this passion, talent of yours, and let us work together to take it far beyond. And to the trust, congratulations for the good work that you've been doing. And we wish you all the very best in the future endeavors, and be assured that John Peace Foundation will walk the distance with you. Thank you.
Especially for the contextualization, if I may say, of the vision of the foundation, which from what I hear rings true very soundly with the trust. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you all are very well aware, the Greatiean Trust and the Greatiean Award is a celebration of English creative writing in Sri Lanka and in our literature. And incidentally, the British Council has been the venue partner for the shortlist announcement ceremony since its inception. So that is a 33-year long relationship and one of the strongest bonds of the trust. So it is only apt and appropriate for us to hear a few words from His Excellency, Mr. Andrew Patrick, the British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him to the stage.
Dr. Saravanutu, the trustees, distinguished writers, distinguished colleagues, distinguished guests, it's a really great honor for me to have the chance to speak briefly to you this evening. This is actually the event that I enjoy most out of all of the events that I get invited to every year. So it's great to have the chance to be up here on stage. And as Dr. Saravanutu said, it is a wonderful celebration of the creativity of Sri Lanka and Sri Lankans. We tend to think, at least in my country, of Sri Lanka's main intellectual exports as being doctors and architects. But I think there's a case for making creative writers an important part of that export. So one of the things you do as an ambassador preparing to come to a posting is you read a lot of novels about the country. And the reason you do that is it tells you how society works. It tells you things that you're never going to hear once you're here, because they're things that are true, but nobody ever talks about them. So I read a lot of books, some of them Greatiean Prize winners, in order to prepare for my posting here. And I had a very strange experience a few months ago as I was at a dinner party in Colombo 7, and I had an extraordinary sense of deja vu. And I thought, where have I been at this party before? And I realized I hadn't been at this party before, I'd read about it. I'd read an absolutely perfect rendition of a Colombo 7 dinner party. The jokes, the cadences, the talk about who was related to who and who had done what. It was exactly like life in Colombo. So it was wonderful preparation. I'm a bit overawed by speaking here at a forum with so many leading figures from the literary scene in Sri Lanka. So in order to prepare, I read a few speeches that had been given at other literary prizes. I read the speech by David Saloy, who won the Booker Prize last year. I don't know whether any of you listened to it. He advocated that novels should be adventurous. They should take risks. Fair enough. The second part of what he said is the reason that novels should take risks is because they're very cheap to produce. Essentially, you put a writer in a room and you give him enough coffee, or her, enough coffee and food for a year and a half, and out will come a novel. And this rather shocked me because I thought it was quite a difficult thing to write a novel. I've never written a novel. I have to write reports back to my headquarters, and it's really quite difficult to get even a set of uncontested facts into the right order to make a sensible report, and I don't have to hold my audience's interest for more than 2 pages. So I realize that he is, of course, doing that very British thing. If a British person wins an award, you have to make a self-deprecatory joke, and that is what he is doing. I know, and I've read from others, that perhaps other authors have said that perhaps writing a novel or a book of poetry is much more like giving birth to a baby, except the gestation period is often longer than giving birth to a baby. And then after you have given birth, you have to come along and you have to display your baby in front of a panel of judges who are going to poke around, and they're going to see which baby has the pinkest cheeks or the cutest dimples or the nicest nose, and they're going to give a prize to the best baby, the best novel. So I can imagine just how nervous the shortlisted authors are feeling at this moment. So I greatly appreciate what they have done. I greatly appreciate the work that the judges have done. I'm sure the judges trying to find the best in every piece of work, but ultimately having to make a decision even when you can't compare the different genres that you've had to choose between. So it's an enormously difficult task, and I want to appreciate the work of the judges. Finally, I think we can all agree that we are living in very turbulent times, certainly the most turbulent since I've worked as a diplomat, not only because of the situation in the world, but the rise of AI and so on. So what is the role of fiction, poetry, novels in this kind of world? Well, some people might say that it's a way of escape, it's a way of sort of burying your head and living in a world which does not have these challenges. You could say that. But also, I think the best authors always challenge us to think about how we meet those challenges as human beings, how we take on the challenges of the 21st century. And that is what great fiction and great poetry contributes. So thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Very much, sir, for those kind words about Sri Lankan culture. It is refreshing, I suppose, to also hear the fact that the Colombo 7 parties and perhaps the gossip also live up to the hype. Ladies and gentlemen, now we move closer to the main event, the reason that we are all here, and that is the award itself. But prior to that, let us take a moment to recognize the shortlisted authors. This is no simple task. It is an absolute honor, I'm sure, to make this list, and we will recognize the shortlisted authors firstly by readings of their texts. We have a wonderful set of readers lined up for you, all of whom I have the pleasure and privilege of calling my friends. You are in for a treat knowing some of the personalities who are about to take the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin first with Bleep the Hum by Anisha Ansar. It is a novel. The excerpt will be read by my learned friends, Mr. Nadun Disanayaka and Mrs. Mokshini Jayamana. Please enjoy.
I have to do something, but do I really have to? When I still have time, I can still go back and forget something like this happened. How long will this go on for? The truck driver asks, clutching the steering handle harder. I have work to do. I don't reply because I know how long, I do not know how long this will actually take. I simply say, you will be amply compensated. We reach a town that is no longer bustling or noisy. It is almost rural, with only trees and forests as far as the eye can see. If you really squint your eyes, you will see a man or two coming from around the road that is no longer tarred, it is pure sand. The van stops at a desolate place, at least 15 kilometers away from Katumal Rauman. I asked the driver to stop so that the bunch inside the van won't notice me. I place 2 5,000 notes in the driver's hands. He's shocked. I signal with my eyes for him to take it and make a run for it. Taking a cover behind a tree, she cries, fell.
You will regret this. You all will.
Aren't you cute? You'll see how much cuter you become when you scream beneath us. This gets him laughing again. What am I going to do? What can I even do? I can't fight. I can't scream asking for help because this is a soulless place. I call 119 as my heart pounds. I feel it in my ears. A lump forms around my throat. The one from yesterday, the male Kudda, now steps out. You will remember what I'm going to do to you. No man will touch you after this. Malini looks at him with tears in her eyes and screams,
Fucking asshole!
A gunshot bellows through the forest and a blur of smoke rises. I have no time to think before I jump to the place Malini is, hugging her as more gunshots rain down. My eyes start tearing up. I realize
Thank you very much for that delightful and dramatic reading. All I can say, ladies and gentlemen, is I did warn you beforehand. We move on to our second shortlisted author. The text is Dear Father, The Refuge by Alan DeCosta. It is a published work of fiction. The excerpt will be read by my very good friend and YouTube sensation, and who I am reliably informed is officially Sri Lanka's, or Colombo's, maybe Sri Lanka's as well, most eligible bachelor. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dino Correa.
Thanks, Rehan. They walked into the jungle, and the occasional large trees provided dappled shadows around them. A succession of squeals in front of them heralded a crashing mob of elephants of all sizes crossing the track. Lucas had enough and swung around, nearly unseating his rider, and by the time Costa regained control, he was out of sight of the main party. He dismounted quickly and held the horse's head. One of the boys came running down the track to him. There's a big male elephant just inside the jungle ahead of us. Costa was considering his position, which included a rapid disengagement towards the beach, a plan which Lucas would have approved of. A sudden crackling of the undergrowth in front of them produced a huge elephant, which blew like a whale with both its tail and trunk up as it walked in quickly and then swung around to face them. Costa was struggling with Lucas. He tugged the horse's head away so he could not see. He glanced back up the track and noted the elephant had approached perilously close to them.
Thank you very much, Dino. We now move on, ladies and gentlemen, to our third shortlisted author. The text is God, Bangles and a Constitution by Ekali Anuttar. It is a poetry collection manuscript. Please welcome back to the stage Mr. Nadun Disanaika and Mokshini Jayamani.
The poem is titled Action Verbs. Come, tiptoe to kiss me on the lips.
And we?
Read
The love
the love
letters
letters on mirrors. The privilege of performing this evening is titled 9th. 9th April 2022. Crowds spilled into the streets, loud. The air tasted of sweat and hope. We thought we could win. We did, for a day. Victory smelled like gasoline. 9th May 2022. Faces were painted. Louder. I could hear people talk. Some sang. Some had guitars with them. The feeling of people.
Thank you. The next text, ladies and gentlemen, is titled In the Curve of the Smile by Uveni Atukorala. It is a novel. The excerpt will be read by another one of my learned friends, Purnima Pilapitiya.
Were you with Shyamalee? I asked. I got a nod in return. I don't know what you talk about with Shyamalee. Such a boring character. That, though, was not strictly true. Shyamalee was not so much boring as odd. Chantal caught the lie and shook her head. No, said her head as it swung from side to side. No, she's not a bore, just an odd duck. And that is a world of difference. You can talk. I won't break. Stop treating me like some sort of invalid. I wish all of you would stop it. Chantal examined her feet. So, what did you talk about with Shyamalee? Kim asked how you were. She knew you had come home. She had watched through a curtain. While I looked out of a taxi window and noticed the dusty crotons near her house, Shyamalee had looked out of a window and probably seen me looking her way. What did you tell her? I asked anxiously. As much as I didn't care for Shyamalee, I didn't want her to spread the word that I was an invalid. I told her that you must rest. I said that, okay, let's say you didn't see that part. I probably imagined it. But I also remember seeing Gihan and the other boy on the floor. So I couldn't have imagined everything. Do you remember anything more about Gihan? Chantal's look softened. He had his left arm over his eyes, like this. She laid an arm on her forehead. He was not bleeding or injured. He looked like he was sleeping, except the way he had fallen. His legs were stretched out on the floor, but his body looked like he was sitting on the floor with his head gone to one side and his arm near his eyes. I could visualize it clearly, as though I were looking at him now. It was exactly as I had seen it, whether for real or in my mind. Thank you.
The last shortlisted text, ladies and gentlemen, is titled The Sun and the Lover by Visakesa Chandrasekaram. It is a work of fiction, and the excerpt of The Sun and the Lover is appropriately read by Dino Correa.
Tash eventually turned the conversation towards Hasi's studies and work. He gave his usual indifferent answers. For now, he was working as a nursing assistant. He planned to save money, and once he got permanent residency, next year he would pursue a bachelor's degree in education so he could teach. Then Tash launched into a familiar commentary about how lucky Hussey was to have Phil supporting him, helping with school fees, and that Phil has his own place for Hussey to live rent-free. I've seen so many international students struggling, doing Uber deliveries, sharing. At first, Hussey hadn't understood why Tash was so bitter. It was though Zave, or rather it was through Zave, that he had learned that she had been Phil's girlfriend at university. After Phil came out, she continued to cling to him and struggled to stay with any of the men she dated. Thankfully, Shane came to Hussey's rescue, pulling him into a debate with Nick about whether Buddhist monks were allowed to have families. Hussey, tell them that monks can't have sex. But explain, I was not in the temple, it was at university. Yes, but you were a monk then. Hussey frowned at Nick, who was laughing hysterically. Without a word, he rushed out, saying he needed a smoke. Outside the pub, he lit a cigarette. A wave of dizziness hit him, mingled with frustration. This evening had turned out nothing like he had imagined. He didn't want to go back inside, exhaling slowly.
And my thanks to all the readers. That was simply wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another round of applause for our readers. And with that, let us move on to recognizing the shortlisted authors with certificates. May I invite to the stage Dr. Pakiswati Saranmuttu and Ms. Kamalin Jayasuri to present those certificates. I will announce the names of the authors individually, and I request the authors to kindly remain on stage subsequent to receiving their certificates. Anisha Ansar. Let's have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Aaron DeCosta. Anuttara. Ubili Atkola. Visakesa Chandrasekharan. Now may I invite Mrs. Amendra Habutantri, who is the director of Salasar Bookshop Private Limited, to present. So, introduce you a special treat. Now, while the Greatiean Award is a celebration of the written word can be celebrated first by a cinnamon peeler to his wife and uses the associations of the smell of cinnamon to explore memory and desire. The unique feature of this performance will be that the poem is brought to life not only through the spoken word but through dance as well. The choreography is by Kapila Paliyavadana, and the performance will also be by Kapila Paliyavadana and Kalani Sachitra of the Natanda Dance Theatre Sri Lanka troupe. And the poem is presented by Lakshita Edirisinghe. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our performance.
If I were a cinnamon peeler, I would ride your bed and leave the yellow bark dust on your pillow. Your breasts and shoulders would reek, You could never walk through markets without the profession of my fingers floating over you. The blind would stumble certain of whom they approached, though you might bathe under rain gutters, monsoon. Here on the upper thigh, at this smooth pasture neighbor to your hair, or the crease that cuts your back, this ankle, you will be known among strangers as the cinnamon peeler's wife. I could hardly glance at you before marriage, never touch you, your keen-nosed mother, your rough brothers. I buried my hands in saffron, disguised them over smoking tar, helped the honey gatherers. When we swam once, I touched you in water, and our bodies remained free. You could hold me and be blind of smell. You climbed the bank and said, "This is how you touch other women, the grass cutter's wife, the lime burner's daughter." And you searched your arms for the missing perfume and knew. What good is it to be the lime burner's daughter, left with no trace, as if not spoken to in an act of love, as if wounded without the pleasure of scar? You touched your belly to my hands in the dry air and said, "I am the cinnamon peeler's wife. Smell me."
Wasn't that wonderful, ladies and gentlemen? Let's have another round of applause for our performance, please. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the moment we have all been waiting for, the judges' report and citation, followed by the presentation of the Greatiean Award for the year 2025. Prior to that, though, a quick word on our jury. The jury for the Greatiean Award consists of 3 judges. Firstly, a writer, who is the architect of the written word. Then we have an academic, who is the critique and student of that word. And finally, and very importantly, if I may say, a reader, who is the target of that written word. It is this 3-pronged level of scrutiny that has, in fact, maintained this extremely high standard that we associate with the Greatiean Award. So allow me to introduce you to this year's jury. We start with V.V. Ganeshanandan, who is the chair of the jury. She is the writer on the panel. She is the author of Brotherless Night, which won the 2024 Women's Prize for Fiction, the 2024 Carol Shields Prize, and the 2023 Asian Prize. The novel was also a New York Times Editor's Choice and an NDR Book of the Year. Her work has appeared in Granada, the New York Times, and the Best American Non-Required Reading, among many other publications. She co-hosts Literary Hub's fiction, non-fiction podcast and teaches at the University of Minnesota. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please. Next, we have with us Dr. Divindu Karunanayake, who is the academic on the panel. He is an associate professor in the Department of English at Elon University, North Carolina, USA. His research and teaching concentrates on 20th and 21st century Anglophone and post-colonial literature, Asian American literature, human rights, post-memory, and diaspora studies. He holds an MA and a PhD in English from Miami University and a BA in English from the University of Colombo. His articles have appeared in such journals as Ariel, a review of international English literature, the Journal of Post-Colonial Writing, South Asian Review, and ICES research papers. And his chapters have been featured in the edited volumes of the subjects of human rights, critical Asian and Asian American studies, teaching Anglophone diasporic South Asian literature, and the Oxford Encyclopedia of Asian American Literature and Culture. He is the co-editor of the special double issue of the South Asian Review on Global Sri Lankan Literature and Culture. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our academic on the panel. Next we have Azara Jalil, who is our informed reader. She is the editor-in-chief of the Arthra magazine, the Sri Lankan modern and contemporary art magazine established in 2012. Having published 70 editions, she has interviewed over 1,000 art personalities whilst working with academics, critics, historians of local and international repute in building an archive of art essays, interviews, critiques, publications and panel discussions across Sri Lanka, the United Kingdom and UAE through the years. Azara received her BA Honours in English from the University of Colombo and has completed her postgraduate studies in international studies, I beg your pardon, marketing and communications from BCIS Sri Lanka, CIM UK, and the University of Virginia, the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our informed guests. Believe it or not, that was the abridged version of their bios. They have so much more to speak for themselves, ladies and gentlemen. May I kindly invite the three members of the jury to take the stage and to present the judge's report and citation. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. I want to begin by thanking the trust, the trustees, of course, the staff, and all of you wonderful supporters of the Greatiean Prize for making this such a wonderful experience. I'm Vivi Ganeshananthan. You may have also heard me referred to as Suki, and I hope if I get to meet you later this evening, you'll call me that. It has been our privilege to judge this prize in a year when freedom is more important than ever. As we announce our choice, we want to call attention to the freedom to which readers and writers, including Sri Lankan readers and writers, are entitled. We note particularly the case of Tamil writer Deepa Chalvan, who recently had 2 books withheld by customs, purportedly as the result of concerns that their release could, quote, damage national harmony. This comes as the most recent incident in a country where writers have long been under threat. We think of Richard de Souza, Rajni Thiranagama, Prageeth Eknaligoda, Lasantha Wickramatunga, Podala Jayantha, DBS Jayaraj, Chalvi Tyagaraja, Murugaya Tamilchalvan, Anaf Jazim, Kanapati Pillai Kumanan, and many, many others from different communities who have been terrorized, suppressed, and silenced. National harmony is strengthened by rigorous, informed conversation and freedom of information and expression, which requires more and more outlets for imagination and thinking, not censorship. Sri Lanka is a country of diverse readers that deserve the greatest possible degree of exchange, as well as liberation of thoughts, ideas, and language. We support Deepa Chalvan's freedom and the freedom of every writer who works in Sri Lanka in any language. We support the freedom of Sri Lankan readers. In this spirit and in solidarity with these communities, it was our honor to read this year's extraordinary submissions representing the best of literature in English by writers resident in Sri Lanka.
We received a record-breaking number of entries, close to 100. This became daunting when we realized how truly excellent they were. Fiction, short stories, poetry, and memoir were well represented, among with voices across generations, identities, and positionalities based all over the country. We judged the prize against the backdrop of a globalized Sri Lanka, that is renewing itself while grappling with societal fissures stemming from ethnic, class, and religious upheavals. In an era marked by an increasing sites of cultural resistance, accelerated by fragmentation and the sprawling effects of an AI culture, we look for writing that not only brought vitality into the Sri Lankan canon, but also carried a sense of timelessness.
We aligned immediately and unanimously regarding what we sought in this year's Greatiean winner. We gravitated towards work driven by absolute purpose. Writing that is inherently bold, curious, honest, and innovative. We prioritized writing that carves out spaces to eliminate marginalized experiences on their own terms. In an era of increasing technological uniformity, we sought to honor literature that centers human experience and voices rather than the synthetic touch of artificial intelligence. We sought writing that taught us to see the relationship between the local and the global anew, that did not over-explain or apologize, and that saw and celebrate Sri Lankan vernacular as well as the global aspects of Sri Lankanness. We searched for work unafraid of engaging with the political and its relationship with the personal.
This year's winner more than meets these criteria. A brave novel of startling, intense emotion. It addresses its characters and Sri Lanka with deep love and rigor.
With a fearless and critical eye, the book navigates the polemic intersections of Buddhist ideology and the nature of the modern monastic order, unmasking undercurrents of racism, entitlement, and the preservation of stagnant practices that clash with the pulse of contemporary life. The timing of the novel, as Sri Lanka wrestles with monastic chaos and disorder, is profoundly telling. It underscores creative writing's power to reveal the controversial undercurrents of the times we live in, blurring the lines between political fact and artistic fiction. It requires a writer with a special brand of courage to explore a Buddhist monk's queer sexual orientation. The young Buddhist monk who stands as the heartbeat of the story is flawed, vulnerable, and rebellious. The writer charts the blooming intimacies between the two lovers with care and depth. The book defies the reductive trope of the South Asian homosexual exploiting the West to flee their home country. The protagonist imagines a future in his village, a place that is stereotypically cast as the very space from which a gay man must escape. Travels are characterized by a sense of worldliness. This global consciousness addresses age-old systemic problems in a way that ensures the novel's broad and enduring relevance. The decay of relationships in the book is also handled with masterful unpredictability. There is no tidy explanations, only the organic friction and psychological tension of characters refusing to play along with societal expectations.
Beyond the intimate relationship it charts, the deep meditation on Buddhist notions of desire and renunciation powerfully captures the nuances of mother-son relationships across cultures. Strong women shape the trajectories of men around them, while systematically subverting the cliches of the subcontinental matriarch. The protagonist's mother, for instance, a village woman, turns out to be more progressive and open-minded than stereotype would dictate. She embodies a set of epistemes that only a writer grounded in Lankan life and culture could effectively capture.
We also admire how the novel's cinematic language evokes the surreal imagery of David Lynch and the stylistic language of Satyajit Ray. The end transfixed us with a twist that has a dash of magic realism. The reader comes out of the story a different person. This novel marks a second generation of gay Sri Lankan fiction, challenging, complementing, and becoming a worthy successor to Shyamalee M's landmark novel, Funny Boy.
In the words of the late Qadri Ismail, this is a novel that abides by Sri Lanka without orientalizing local life or pandering to Western audiences. This book tells a Sri Lankan story, one that deserves the world. The writer has crafted an undeniably original contribution to literature, a necessary interrogation of what it means to live, love, and remain in Sri Lanka today. And the winner is Visakesa Chandrasekaram's The Sun and the Lever.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our winner, Mr. Chandrasekaram. I have also been informed that this is in fact he's the second time recipient of the Greatiean Prize. He was a joint winner in 1999 for his play Forbidden Area. Congratulations. May I invite Dr. Pakisuri Saranmuthu to take the stage to present the certificate and the Greatiean Award for the year 2025. May I also invite the sponsors to be represented on stage as well. Ms. Shyamalee M of Johnfield Foundation, Mrs. Amendra Haputantri of Saraswati Bookshop Private Limited, and the General Manager of Cinnamon Life, Mr. Kamal Munasinghe. To join us on stage, please. Thank you.
Thank you, members of the jury of the Greatiean Prize. Thank you, the trustees of the Greatiean Trust. And I would like to also thank my fellow writers who joined us today to tell their stories. And thank you, all of you. I would also like to thank my mother, my sisters, and my friends who have kept their faith in me. And I'm very proud to be here as a gay man, a Samakami man. And I think it is wonderful that I can say it here, but you all should understand I'm protected by this bubble of privileges, protected by my social status, my profession, the very language that I'm communicating with you now. But a lot of my friends of my community are not in a position to say that in public. Like the sword of Damocles hangs above our head, the archaic laws which prohibit our romantic expressions and acts. Successive governments and various political parties have given us various promises that they will erase these oppressive laws one day, but they kept postponing that, claiming that there are more important problems to be solved. My friends, our lives matter. So every year, month, week, they keep postponing the changes of these laws. Our friends live with fear of losing their livelihood, losing their shelter, losing their family, losing their freedom, and sometimes fear of losing their life as well. So what can we do? We as writers should keep telling our stories until they all realize there are too many of our stories and too many of us. Thank you. Happy Pride Month.
Congratulations once again. Ladies and gentlemen, as the evening draws to a close, may I invite Professor Madhuranga Kalugampitiya, who is Senior Lecturer and the Head of the Department of English at the University of Kerala. Thank you, Rehan. Just a minor correction, a very important correction. I'm not Professor, I'm Dr. Kalugampitiya, just for the record. We've come to the end of the proceedings. Let me begin by congratulating Mr. Visakesa Chandrasekaran, the winner of the Greatiean Prize of this year. As the Greatiean Trust, we truly appreciate this opportunity to celebrate your work, sir. Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. Let me also congratulate all the winners who were longlisted and shortlisted for the prize. Your participation in the run-up to the prize made this year all the more exciting to all of us. I wish to take this opportunity to thank a few special dignitaries for gracing this occasion. His Excellency Andrew Patrick, the British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka. His Excellency Dr. Semir Lutfu Turgut, the Ambassador to the Republic of Turkey. His Excellency Matthew Duckworth, the Australian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, and Mr. Andrew Oliver Gillies, representing the Canadian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, and also Mr. Stefan Winkler, the Director of the Goethe Institute. Your presence made tonight very special. I convey our heartfelt gratitude to our judges for this year's prize, Vivi Ganeshananthan, or Sugi, as we call her, Dr. Dinindu Karunanayake, and Ms. Asara Jalil. It has been nothing short of an honor to have distinguished personalities like you, of your caliber, presiding over the prize this year. Special thanks to Sugi and Dinindu for making it all the way from the United States to attend this prize event. It really mattered. And Sugi, a very personal note of thanks. Thank you for speaking at the several public events organized by the Greatiean Trust parallel to the event, and a very personal thank you for coming to Pera Venue. I wish to thank all our sponsors: John Keels Foundation, Cinnamon Life, City of Dreams, Sarasavi Bookshop, Vijay Newspapers, ACT Digital, and the Marga Institute. The prize event simply would not have been possible without your support. Let me also thank the staff of Cinnamon Life who have gone beyond the brief to help us create this beautiful evening. Thank you for curating a special cocktail menu for the evening. Last but not least, a very warm thank you to all of you who joined the prize event today. Your presence made the event very colorful. And with that, let me invite all of you to partake in the celebration and use this opportunity to meet with our authors and judges. Thank you. Is a reflection of some sort of prophetic ability a reflection of the future for you, but I have been informed that he is a trustee of the Greatiean Trust as well, so 2 corrections on my part. Ladies and gentlemen, the best news that I can give you for this evening is that is all from me. As a good bard once said, the world is but a stage. I do hope that I have played my part, as you have played your a wonderful part as a wonderful audience. Thank you so much. I've been asked to inform you, remind you that there is a reception afterwards. Please do stay on. I have also been told that as a reminder, please take your validation card for parking. If you fail to do so, the trust does not take on any obligation. It will not indemnify you and bears no responsibility. That may also be the lawyer in me speaking, and apologies for that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.